Hi everybody. This slideshow is on some of the thinking from the Senge book you're reading, particularly around systems design. Senge talks about some systems and the way they work. He also talks about how systems can work in a circle and then a balancing loop. So I want to show you a couple of these things. So first of all, Senge talks about the activity going on in an organization and how sometimes we get going and we hit a problem, but we don't really think about what we're doing, so we just keep going, focusing on the problem in the same way. Senge talks about the fact that we need to interrupt and create a place where we can intersect to add on instead a balancing loop, which would be happening out here. So that actually what happens is something like this, giving you time to reflect on the process of what's happening within the system with which you're working. So we know that here we might have the choice to take action. And perhaps here we have the interrupting factor. And here we could have desired or undesired results. And sometimes these are undesired results. For instance, I think he gave you the example of a beer factory. And if not, it will work the same. So the company starts making beer, and they are really successful, so they keep taking action. They reflect on their action and realize they need to take more. So they get more orders, they make more beer, they take more orders, they get more orders, they make more beer, they take more orders. But then all of a sudden, they start getting more orders in than they can actually produce. So the problem here is that now they're getting orders, but not enough beer to fill the orders. Okay, so this might go on for a while, but then all of a sudden, the consumer gets tired because they can no longer get the beer they want. It's not on the shelves. So they stop ordering. But the company doesn't realize that they've stopped ordering, so it continues in its new output. And then all of a sudden, there's a backlog of beer on the shelves, or it cannot be sold. So they went from not enough beer, where the company couldn't fill the orders, to too much beer, to where they now have a backlog. What can stop this is what Senge's talked to us about, a balancing loop. This is the balancing loop, and that's what I'm going to talk about to you. So in a balancing loop, we have a system, we have another loop connected to it out here. So maybe in a balancing loop, the action starts looking more like this, and maybe like this. So you have something going on that's helping you reflect, after you have an interruption in your system. You have something that gets you to pause and reflect on where you're going and what you're doing, which is what's happening over here. This is the balancing loop. A balancing loop is a reflective process built within the system. So for instance, in the beer company is going along and realizing we're increasing, people like our beer. We got this artesian beer going on. People really like it. So we could possibly get an influx of orders because we're selling really quick. So maybe before we get the orders, we need to project. We need to look around the curve, right? See around the curve, which means, I'll go back and explain what it means, but seeing around the curve, seeing what's coming next before you're there, right? What do you see that's going to happen? What's on the road that you're traveling on, but you can't see the road that you're traveling on because the road is curving and you can't see around that curve. people with really good business sense, people that can run organizations really well, educators with really good organizational design and systems design understanding can see around the curve. And the reason they can see around the curve is they implement this balancing loop that helps them reflect on what might happen next. So as the company is starting to sell out of beer, they would be thinking we need to think of ways to increase production rapidly if that's what we want to do. If we don't want to do that, then fine. We don't have to do that. We can just keep making beer but not increasing our orders. Now, if we like the increased orders, we're going to have to figure out a way to get more beer produced in a shorter amount of time to fill the upcoming orders that we think are going to happen. And that's when they shift over to the balancing loop to try to make some decisions about the upcoming orders of beer that they're going to be anticipating. Now, it really wouldn't make too much business sense to all of a sudden start production without knowing that it's coming. But people with their hand on data streams, people with their hand on information that's coming into them, have an inkling that something is about to shift, an interrupting process is about to shift, and they need to come over here and reflect and make some alternative decisions. This is what Senge is talking to us about. So let's think of in terms of an educational organization. Let's say we have a principal that goes into a school, brand new principal goes into a school, has really high discipline, and the principal is just trying to survive the day, right? So here we have the principal taking some sort of action, disciplining the students, suspensions go up, parents and stakeholders get more angry because suspensions are up. But the principal doesn't pay attention to this factor going on here, which is the angry parents, right? The calls that are starting to come into the district office because the principal is suspending more students. And he continues to approach it in the same way he's done, which is straight discipline. Student misbehaves, discipline, suspension, student goes home, angry parents, and so the circle goes on. But let's say that these angry parents, this anger, causes an interruption in the system, causes an interruption here that the principal's not necessarily able to all of a sudden continue suspensions in the way he's done before. Or he does just keep blindly going in the circle, because if you don't take advantage of a balancing loop, that's actually what happens. Let's say he gets here, he gets so many parent complaints, he gets a call from the boss. The superintendent says, whoa, wait a minute. We need to figure out what's going on and what are some other alternatives to suspension or some other ways for you to involve the parents in the suspending decisions. So perhaps this is when finally the principal decides to get together a group of teachers and educators, maybe the school psychologists, to figure what is going on at the site. When maybe they implement a small action research project. When is the most of the discipline happening? What are the most of our referrals? What are most of our suspensions coming on? They look at these things, and then they can make a decision to take a new action. Okay? This is really a plan, do, study, act circle going on here. I just didn't write that. Plan, do, study, act means you plan to do something, you do it, then you study, and then you decide if you're going to make any sort of changes, and then you keep going on. But it really still takes the balancing loop that Senge talked to us about when we get to where our system is no longer working for us in the round. When this system's not working, we need to stop, take into account to what's going on, something that forces us in, to the reflection that we should be in right here. Right, here's the reflection going on. So those are some things to think about with what Senge has shared with us on the system and system thinking and the balancing loop. There's one other thing that's going to be important for you to get to as time goes on. And I want to show this to you, is I want you to be able to start thinking about your system. So I could say we have a system at Fresno State, and I think I mentioned this last week in the podcast, but one of the new systems I'm noticing at Fresno State is a system of support for students. And the system includes some pieces that are fairly new and different for the school. They're fairly new. So one of them is things that take time to put in place. And that is over here. This is the faculty development. We also have some things that are easier to put in place over here for some direct student services. One of these was, we have a food pantry that's been launched. We have a clothes closet for professional clothing. Those are the two that I'm just going to talk about right now. We also have a change in advising services. Advising services looks very different, and it's no longer centralized. It's a decentralized services where it's happening out in each of the departments and colleges rather than in a student services center where students have to come to them. So if we said that this is the Fresno State system, of student support, I could say that here. I could say some very different things are happening. We still have faculty out there teaching in old and new ways. This is the pedagogy. We still have faculty advising students. They're not all just in advising centers. We still have faculty that are agreeing or disagreeing to go to PD to help them teach better. We also have going on quite a few donations. We have community involved here, with community stakeholders contributing and supporting this. And we have multiple systems that have been put into place, and I can't even name them all right now because I don't know all of them that well. But we have multiple systems involving technology and face-to-face supports. So there is a multitude of things happening within the system at Fresno State for student support. So let me draw some lines here. So as you can see, these things are not exclusive of themselves. Oops, I should probably go it like this, huh? Let me take this one out. Probably where the real line is faculty development to direct services, faculty development to advising, okay? But direct services does connect to the food pantry, and it does connect to the clothes closet. It does connect to face-to-face services to students. Advising is connecting to technology services, face-to-face services, and it also connects with the way some of the faculty are or are not advising now. We have a new technology initiative going on, which is devices. So it's affecting that here. It's affecting here. It's affecting pedagogy. It's affecting direct student services because there's been a grant for that. And it's affecting advising also because of how we're telling students to take classes and what should be going on. This is what I mean by when I say draw the system, see the system. I want you to start seeing things where you're seeing the interconnectivity of things that are going on. I'm going to challenge you this week. I wanted you to draw a system last week and just show it to one another. But now I want you to draw a system, and you're going to take a screenshot of it or something. You're going to upload it into Blackboard so we can all see it and we can all share with one another what you're thinking. And any system you can see, okay, that's happening in your organization where you work right now. That will be your weekly challenge.